I passed them all around.
Oh, did you? Oh, we're good. We're good.
I gotta figure out how to like it.
So,
All right, thank you.
well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Myles, and I work for South Coast Air Quality Management District. I used to be a teacher. My method was to be quiet. That was 100 years ago. I just want to say thank you for inviting me out to share with you some information about air quality in the region. But first, I'm going to ask some questions. How many of you know anything about South Coast Air Quality, AQMD? How many? Okay, that's a few. Understand that. That's great. I just want to say that tequila will cure anything. I know that. Well, we're the district that regulates air quality in the region, and we've been around for about 30, 40 years. And let me kind of go through.
Trying to get better.
I'll go down to the next slide. We have 4 counties that we represent: Orange County, LA County, Riverside, and San Bernardino County. You can see them right there. And it's a big area that we. Yes, sir.
Please use the microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is it on now?
No, there's an on and off switch right there.
All right.
Look it up.
How about now? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have to scream or anything. Like I said, we represent 4 counties. And so we're a big district. As you can see, it's over 10,000 square miles, 17 million people. And the biggest problem that we have with air quality in the region are mobile sources. We're going to get into that. And we see thousands and hundreds of trucks and cars traveling on our freeways every day. And that's what's the major problem. Now, I'm a person. Oh, well, they're not the major problem, but they're a source. They're not the major source of air pollution in our region are mobile sources. We're talking about the volume of cars and trucks and goods movement, coming from our ports, going throughout the region. So I'm going to get into that, but I just want to explain some things first. But that's very important that you know. Then we regulate refineries. I want to tell you about that. So we have a big area. I was born and raised in LA. Anybody born and raised in the area? A few of us, okay. And some of us have seen a difference in air quality in the region. I know when I was a boy, there was a word we don't even hear much anymore, and that's called smog. We don't even hear about it. When I mention that to my granddaughters, they're like, "What are you talking about, Grandma?" Smog. Yeah, they don't even know the word so much, but we remember when smog, you could like cut a knife through it. I recall in the 70s, I was driving on the 10 freeway. I'm driving on the 10 freeway, and I'm going about my business. I look over to the right, and I see a young lady with a gas mask on in the car. I didn't get that memo. Nobody told me that it had gotten that bad. But it was pretty bad. We've made it a lot better. It's gotten a lot better over the years. But at the same time, we still have the worst air quality in the nation. I'm going to talk about it. Let's go to the next slide. Pardon me? In the nation, in the United States, we have the worst air quality here in the United States. Now, let me tell you how we're structured. Okay, on a federal level, the EPA, they develop the standards for air quality throughout the United States. So they come up with the standards in the plan. Okay, and our next thing what you see where it says California Air Resources Board, they take those standards and they develop them into a California plan. And we adopt that plan as well. Now, we all have different things that we regulate. They regulate primarily what we call mobile sources. They deal with mobile sources and transportation. We deal with what we call stationary sources. What would be an example of a stationary source? A refinery. I say things that are bolted down, but it's sometimes you're kind of surprised. A refinery, power plants, a dry cleaner, your dry cleaners, and it could be a gas station, even a fry place where they have the emissions come out. So there's a variety of places where, that we regulate. And our inspectors go out to these refineries and places on a regular basis. And that's why it's come down a great deal from stationary sources. Okay, let's see what our next slide is about. Now, I say, why does it matter? These are some important things that I think definitely relates to us here. Adverse health impacts. It really affects your health in many ways, especially if you have asthma, allergies, pulmonary issues, or respiratory issues. It's triggers for some of those things, and it just makes life much tougher. Also also the economic impacts. We know it costs a lot. You were just talking about some of the medicine, the things that you have to buy. These things are expensive. Going to the doctor, going to the hospital, going to emergency, and that's often the case with people who have asthma. Now, and on a federal level, some of the grants and monies that we get may be cut out if we don't get some of those things. Okay, let's see now, as I was saying, the biggest problem with air pollution in the region, we're talking about 80% comes from what we call, transportation. Now, I'm going to get over this way a little bit. Now, we talk about on-road. What would be on-road? What would be an on-road transportation?
Buses.
Buses, trucks, cars, things like that. Off-road would be some of the equipment that we see. So some of those are off-road kinds of things. But that's 80%. Now, stationary sources, 20%. We made that come down a great deal. We have really affected that AQMD. So we can see where we need to do the work is on off-road and transportation. And I grew up with, my dad was a car dealer in the 50s and 60s. So if you know LA in the 50s, it was like a car town, it was like, and I grew up when they were streetcars, take streetcars to downtown and do whatever. They tore all that stuff out. They said, we want everybody to get in their cars and drive. Now we find out that's not the greatest thing in the world, But we've been that kind of town. We haven't been, our infrastructure or transportation hasn't been in place. Just recently in the last 20 years, we're really getting into, some kind of mass transit, where you see some of the red lines and green lines and things like that. And they're quite costly, so we're kind of behind the curve in that, but that's one of the biggest problems. Let's see what's next here. Okay, some of the key issues here. Now, we're in compliance on the first floor, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and lead. Now, we're not in compliance with ozone or particulate matter, and we're going to get into particulate matter. That's the stuff that gets into your system and really make you sick. And toxics. Now, there are no federal standards on toxics, but they definitely are carcinogenic, and they cause a lot of problems for your health. And climate change, we're still working on that. We know this exists. We have to be realistic about it and see what we're going to do about that. Now, this slide, you see what ground level ozone looks like. This over a 24-hour period. Okay, it should show you it. Just let it go. Okay. And you see, over a 24-hour period, it kind of changes and it gets greener. And yes, that's where, over that time, you see where the ozone is coming from. Okay, let's see where our next slide is. Okay, now this is the stuff that really can get you sick, particulate matter. Now, this is particulate matter, really what we're talking about here are, anything in the air. It could be from aerosol cans, it could be from dirt, it could be from diesel, it could be from a variety of stuff. And when that mixes and heats up with air, that's what creates particulate matter. And particulate matter can get right into your system. Now, let's keep it right there for a minute. Show one of these. Now, this is like PM2.10. This black part is the size of a hair. Now, you can see how small that is. And we're talking about PM2.10, right inside of a hair. Even smaller, fine particulate, is that small. We're talking about things that get into your bloodstream, get into your system, and can make us very, very sick. So we're working on that. One thing that I'm really quite proud of, and definitely invite you to come out to AQMD, even though it is a distance away. I'm a South Bay person myself. I live in Redondo, so it takes me an hour to get to work. We're in Diamond Bar. But we invite you out there. We have a great lab, a great facility. I'd like to show that to you. Let's see what we got. Okay, now this is a model excluding diesel. And diesel is the major problem that we have in the region when it comes to transportation and the fuel, because it just makes everything worse. It makes you sick. It affects the air in a bad way. Now this is what it looks without diesel. Let's see what it looks with diesel. Big difference, right? Now that's what we're dealing with on a daily basis when it looks like that. Okay, next slide. Let's see what we got. Now the good news is things have gotten better. Stationary sources are, controlled upwards of 94%. The bad news is that, we still have some things that we need to work on in terms of, some of the things that we haven't been in compliance with. Okay. Oh, the biggest problem are the health impacts. And these are some statistics that are true. 6,200 premature deaths. That's way too many every year. Well, we're talking about 800,000 lost work days where people have to take their kids and go, if they have asthma or something, they have to go to the emergency room. That costs a lot of money. Yes, sir.
How do you determine premature death?
Well, they can go, when you see somebody in the hospital and they really have a real bad case of
Stan, that 6,200 number is the CARB research. Does AQMD do their own separate research?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they do. But I can check on that. Okay, let's see. Now the challenge is really, from a health aspect, to do the things that you're doing, and also mainly deal with your legislators. To let them know. Speak out. And I'm sure you do that sort of. Let them know what some of the issues are. And when there are issues that come up and there's a piece of legislation that you want to support or that you're not in favor of, I think your voices are very important in that. And that's the kind of things that we need to have more of. Okay, now I'm going to get into where the problems are, like we talked about mobile sources. Let's go on the next one. We want to show what the goods movement is really, when one of the major problems of air pollution in the region comes from. Where do you think most of the air pollution comes from in this region? Who can tell? San Pedro is one. Why in San Pedro? There's a place, there are two sources in San Pedro, one in San Pedro and one in Long Beach. The ports.
Really?
The LA port and the Long Beach port, are the busiest ports in the nation. Over 40% of all the goods in our nation come through our two ports. Everything we have on here, everything that we have in this room probably came through our port. And so over 40% of all the goods in the nation come through our port. So when they start in the ports, they put them on ships and transportation and cars and trucks, and most of the real bad air pollution, where do you think it winds up? Because it doesn't stay here in the South Bay. Who can tell me where it goes? Against the wall. That's right. It blows in an easterly direction. So when you see areas like Pasadena, they get a lot more air pollution out that way. Out further out in the Inland Empire, they really get it bad. And they have such a big volume of goods movement going out there. I took a tour about a week ago with one of my colleagues. That's his territory. And some parts of San Bernardino that were all agricultural a while back ago are now what they call truck farms. And you see miles and miles of trucks, and they're just coming out there because many people move out that way. They leave their goods just like everybody else. So you see where the volume goes, and they really suffer pretty bad out that way. Okay, this is just some slides of showing some of the goods movement coming from the ports. Okay, that's more. Now this is interesting because what we try to do, especially with the ports, because we don't want to come down heavy on them and make things tough on them because they're a big economic engine in the region. And what we do is work with them in partnerships to work on different types of technology. So this is where these are electrified cranes instead of the cranes that would run on some type of fuel. So this makes it that there's no pollution here, there are no emissions. This is the direction that they're going in, and this is some of the things that we're working on. Okay, let's see. This shows you actually when we talk about goods movement, when they get off the cargo ships, put them on trains, heading toward different parts of the area.
I have a question on the port stuff, though. Isn't most of the emissions from the trucks that are taking the stuff away? It's not the cargo containers themselves or the port itself.
Well, actually, it's a combination. The biggest problem clearly would be the goods movement as they're traveling. But when the big ships come in, they're still running on that bunker fuel, and that bunker fuel is really bad, very toxic. So many of the ports have converted over from what they call ship-to-shore fuel, which is all electrified. So they're changing some of that technology. But some of the older cargo ships that do come in, all run on that bunker fuel, and it's really very bad. So, like I said, we're working with partnerships with them, especially with the Long Beach port. I just did an interview with them last week, and was able to see the new cargo ships that come in and how much better they are than the ones that you can even smell the difference. With that bunker fuel, you can't stand around it too long. Okay, what we say is proximity matters. And where it's really bad is like in certain areas, like clearly here in the South Bay, not so bad. But if you're near a freeway, if you have children or loved ones who live right near a freeway, that's really bad because they get all that transportation coming down. This is in the Wilmington area right here, in the Wilmington area. And you can see right there the school, big truck is passing by. So proximity definitely does matter. Okay, now these are some of the things that you can do. You say, what can I do to do my part in terms of reducing air pollution? These are some things that you can do. Now, I'm at that point efficient vehicle. Now, there's some new vehicles out there that are incredible, and we really get involved in that a lot at AQMD. So we have a variety of different kinds of hybrids and CNG cars and hydrogen fuel cars and fuel cells. There's so many things out there. It's almost like you have to go to school to know about this stuff. But it really cuts down on costs in terms of buying gas. It cuts down in a variety of ways. There's an organization right here in the South Bay. Anybody familiar with the South Bay Council of Governments? Okay, they're an organization. Obviously, they're a collection of some of the city leaders in the South Bay, and they have a program what they call the Love Project, and it's the Local Use Vehicle Project, and we funded it. It could be funded it where residents like yourself can say, well, I want to check out one of these cars that I'm seeing, an electric vehicle or CNG, some different kind of vehicle. They have a program. You can sign up. You can demonstrate one of their vehicles for a couple of months and see how they operate. Everybody has a different need, especially for some of these cars, and it depends on how you drive. I drive. It takes me I drive on the road at least 300 miles a day, going back and forth to Diamond. Let's say if you just live in the area, and basically all you do is tooling around the area, going to little shops and things like that. You might not need the certain types of cars that need a bigger range. So those are some things that you can do. Other things. The only see on this a little bit longer. You can carpool. People can carpool. You can buy different kind of paint. There are a variety of things that you can do that can reduce air pollution. Oh, this is what the takeaway. The health impacts we know are very severe. The technology is available. It's there. We are working on some of those things. But we have to get our local officials to really do their part and step up. So I think this is let's see what we have next. Okay, this is what we have to do. Like I say, let your local officials know. Raise your voice, speak out. You can get involved in some of the things that we do at AQMD. We have a variety of programs where you can come out and see, like I say, check out our fleet, check out our facility. Our science lab is second to none, and that's where some of these things are really making a big difference. And also, I had some equipment, some things here that I want to show you, and some pass outs. They're in the back. I'm going to put this down for a second because I can't talk and chew gum. Okay, this is on our AQMD pen. You're going to know more about air quality than everybody with this pen. You pull this out and you'll see. It's both English and Spanish, so you'll have all this great information. Also, I have some tote bags in there in the back. And they're great tote bags that you can use for a variety of purposes. It ranges from marketing and whatever. I think I have some tire gauges in the back, and that's also always very good, especially when when your tires are balanced. It reduces emissions. All these things can, oddly enough, affect air quality in the area. So basically, this is what we're about, what we do. Like I say, we'd love to have you come out to learn more about what we do. I've learned a lot about what you're dealing with today, and it's some very serious stuff. And I can see that you're very committed to making some change.
How much particular matter, what percentage of particular matter is usually rubber wearing off tires?
What is the question?
We wanted to know about particulate matter and how it affects rubber on tires and how rubber.
How much rubber that's wearing off tires contributes to particular matter?
Well, one thing I know, if your tires are balanced and they operate right and they're not, about to blow, that makes everything better. When your car's running better, when your tires are balanced, when that's why I gave you some of those tire gauges back there. When that's all in place, then it reduces emissions and everything works much better. Yes, sir. Yes.
There's so many things that you went through that were just headings that I'm curious about. For example, paint, that was on there.
Yeah.
What, the VOCs, does it emit something? What about paint?
Well, some of the paints can have some bad things in it. And what you want to do when you go to the paint store, you want to really read the labels, see what's toxic in there, maybe some toxic things in there. So you want to make sure that you get some non-toxic types of paints, and it's all in the paints, and the stores do have that, so you'll be able to see it.
Another question.
Yes.
Many of us went down to San Diego during the fires. A good distance away. You could see them from the freeway, but they were a distance away. How much of that affects one? And also, does it come this far? Do we still get this
Well-
the residual effect?
Well, we've had it come, fire, smoke, and all that travels a long distance. I remember a few years back, and I was doing some work in this area, letting people know about some wildfires that were in Malibu, and I could smell it very strong right in this area. So it travels.
So you think from there, from the San Diego area, we could still be having some effect out here?
Matter of fact, when that was going on, and when I drove out to Diamond Bar, and I was driving, so when I get there, it was all hazy, and I was thinking, is there a fire in the area? And they said it was all coming from San Diego.
And how far is Diamond Bar from San Diego?
Oh, that's about at least over 100 miles better. Yeah, well over that.
So we could be getting some,
Oh, the smoke, it travels a long, long ways, and it affects everybody. And what we do with that, anytime there's, some wildfires going on, we have our advisories. You can go on our website, and that'll tell you what are good days and bad days to be out and not to be out, and what's going on with some of these fires. So definitely you can go to AQMD.gov.
what is your website?
AQMD.gov. AQMD.gov. Yes, sir.
Does anybody know the history of the valley here?
The San Fernando Valley?
Of the San Fernando, San Bernardino, Los Angeles Valley?
How do you mean, sir?
From the 1700s or the 1500s, you could stand up on the mountain, and when the Indians were lighting a fire down in the valley, the smoke would get up 2,300 feet
Yeah.
and hang. Does anybody realize that this is one of the things?
Well, it's part of the
that has
region,
been
yeah.
produced for there for years, so there's not too much to do about it unless we put the
Well,
big fans.
if you know LA and the history of LA, smog was here before we were. Smog has been around a long time. And why is smog here? Because we live in a basin. We're basically in a bowl. So it gets trapped in there. And it's been that way before, we have technology and cars and trucks. So it's the nature of the region, which is right, sir. I mean, from the 1700s. So we can trace smog as far back as that. That's true. Obviously it's gotten worse because we contribute to so many things that we think make our lives better. Yes, sir.
Several questions, Stan. In the beginning, just understanding, what's the relationship between EPA and AQMD? And then what's the relationship between AQMD and CARB? Do you have any control over moving sources, or are you all stationary?
Awesome. Predominantly stationed, just minor control over some moving sources, where we work that out with, some technology, mainly technology issues that we're working on. But we mainly are, with stationary sources. And like I say, EPA, they come up with the plan. They develop the plan for the nation. CARB, comes up with the California plan, and then we adopt that plan as well. But we all have separate kind of jurisdictions. Their tailpipe, people, we have stationary sources.
Now,
Yes, sir.
given that we're in a non-attainment area, okay, what is AQMD's position on approving new sources of air quality, of pollution? For example, building new power plants within the district.
Well, we deal with some of those issues. When we look at that, our technology people, our science people see what's good for the region. So if it's good for the region, and what are the impacts? Like we've been dealing with the power plant in Redondo Beach. Many of you are familiar with that, AES. AES, I'm saying. And I mean, there are pros and cons on both sides of that. Often we get drawn into that. All we do is let you know about the health impacts of that facility. And so we've done some studies on that. We've given those to all the people in the powers that be, especially in the city of Redondo Beach and beyond. So what our job is to not say do this or do that, is say this is what's good in terms of the health impacts.
What about monitoring in the local area? Most of us, as you can tell, are on supplemental oxygen.
Right.
Our concern is not the basin, it's not LA County, it's maybe west of Harbor Freeway. That's where we live, that's where we exercise, that's where we get all our medical treatment, and that's kind of where we're limited. What monitoring is done? How do we know about these kind of issues at the local level?
Okay, we have about, I think, over 50 monitoring sites throughout the district. So they're in various areas throughout the district. So, we have different places. I can definitely get you where they're located. And we have some, and clearly some are in what we call hot spots. where there's some areas that are just much worse than others. But there are certain in the South Bay as well where our inspectors, and I have to say with our inspectors, they are really diligent about going out to their sites, because you'd be surprised that the biggest polluters actually do some of the best work. When we're talking about the refineries, they know that they can get into big trouble, so they really do a good job. The refineries and the power plants do a really good job, because we're monitoring them on a regular basis. We're always out there, so they know that they have to do a great job. So they've really stepped up.
Our concern is more particulate matter and NOx and SOx. Some of the monitoring areas, as in AQMIS, don't necessarily much particulate matter.
I would like to know that too. Yeah.
And so that's our big concern, since that's has a much larger effect on our health
see.
than CO2 and things of that
So they're not
nature.
measuring it.
They're not measuring it.
Okay.
At least it's not reported on AQMIS.
That's right.
On that note, does particulate matter affect indoor pollution, and if so, to what degree?
Well, not so much as, it's mainly what we breathe, what we're outside. That's where the major impacts of particulate matter is, when you're out on the road or doing things, and you're there every day and it's just coming into your system.
But say, for instance, if you open the windows and there's particulate matter in the environment, how much of that actually can infiltrate the interior?
Well, I wouldn't say, not as much. I don't know the actual, percentages, but obviously not as much as it would be if you're outside.
But it does?
It does, oh yeah, because you're still breathing the same air.
Sorry.
Yes.
I'd like to get back to the proposed new power plant, AES. What was your recommendation to the political people about that?
Well, we gave them our report that showed that I think we had a mixed use program, so it showed where the problems were, but it wasn't saying that they could not build a power plant. It said this is what, in order to build a power plant, these are our recommendations.
My understanding is that it's going to increase fine particulates, double them. The new power plant will double the release of fine particulates, which are particularly terrible.
Yeah, that's
And then so I cannot understand why you would not be stronger in saying, don't do it.
Well, I'm not sure I can get that information to you if it affects fine particulate matter, but that's not what I've heard, in terms of that it's going to increase anything. From our study, but
You must be reading what AES puts out.
No, we take no position. Yes, sir.
How much does the airplanes out of LAX contribute to the poor air?
Well, they're one of the big areas of contribute, but not as much as we were talking about what comes from the ports. Nowhere near.
It is a large contributor?
Well, because it's a large source, just because it's a large source, and there's so many things that come from that, but we have no control over that. We have no control over that. That's transportation. Yes, ma'am.
Since many toxic elements smell bad, can we extrapolate and say if something smells bad, it is most probably toxic and not?
Well,
Not good for
I
you.
don't think so. Just recently there was a plant in the San Gabriel area, or called Sriracha. They make a hot sauce. It may smell bad, but people have to eat it. Doesn't do anything bad for you. It just may make you burn up a little bit, but it's.
How do we tell then? How do we tell when we are breathing in something that's toxic?
Well, generally, if it has certain things, like sometimes you can tell if it has a metal kind of smell. You can definitely tell certain things that either comes from a power plant or something that sounds. As often in the area we have so many power plants, you might see where they're doing some the flames that come out, the flaring that goes on. So some of these things, it doesn't mean that something's bad going on. It just means that they're releasing some fumes or whatever. But I think you just have to be building it in what you smell, because often it could be a variety of things, odors that come up. And so, but when there's an odor, if you do have an odor issue and you're concerned about it, I want you to call a number, 1-800-CUT-SMALL, 1-800-CUT-SMALL. Call that number, and our inspectors will come out and they'll check out that odor and see what it is. Now, you need to have at least 6 people to respond, to call in.
Oh,
At
I
least
was gonna tell that.
Because, our inspectors, they just get and what happens with an odor issue? By the time our inspectors get there, odors go.
Yeah.
So, those are some of the things that happen, but that's why if you get about 6 people to call in, then our inspectors go right there and kind of, interview the site and check out the site to see where it could have possibly come from. Yes, sir.
I get the AQMD alerts, okay? And during February, March, parts of April, we had a lot of wood burning,
Yeah.
fireplace alerts.
Yeah.
What was the air quality issue then that was so important that doesn't affect us
Well, there's
today?
certain types of year that we, that we send out alerts because it seems when people use their fireplaces more so, and it's clear during that time of year. And many people may not like it because we love our fireplaces and they smell great, but they're not so good for you. The fumes and smells that come from there are very bad.
Is it just air temperature that drives that alert, or is it air quality monitoring that's saying
Monitoring.
the air is too bad right now?
It's the monitoring.
See, but
It's
there we go.
monitoring.
The same with barbecues then, because they have a pleasant odor, but they can't breathe when the barbecue's on.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing about the hot dogs. Maybe it is bad, even though it smells good.
Well, it doesn't. Yeah, right. But it doesn't mean that it's not bad for you in terms of getting into your system and making you sick. Other than maybe have a belly ache, but it's not going to,
So we're all dealing with lungs.
Yes, I understand. Yes, ma'am.
You monitor mobile and Chevron, I live near Chevron.
Well, like I said, yeah, we definitely monitor all the refineries and the power plants. Our inspectors are out there on a regular daily basis. Yes, sir.
Have any studies been done to compare liquid natural gas in automobiles as compared to, say, the whole fleet of automobiles was converted to electricity? Then it would take an awful lot of generating power around here to recharge those batteries.
Like if it's a full electric?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think much of the technology is going in that direction because in terms of emissions, an electric vehicle is the best because there are no emissions.
How about a liquid natural gas?
Well, we do.
How much better than the gasoline engine or diesel engine is that?
Well, the best are electric. That's the best because there are no emissions. And then you get into your hybrid types of vehicles or your CNG.
They're generating emissions.
Well,
That's
like a
where
C-
you'd come in. It would be a lot of power plants in this area. If all these cars out there were purely electric, can you imagine how much generating power you need to charge all those batteries?
But the way they're going with that, in many cities, especially like in El Segundo and Torrance, they have their charging sites. So you can take if you have an electric vehicle.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Somebody has to create that electricity.
Yeah, no matter where you use it.
You have to have a lot more generating power than we have right now.
But some people are actually doing it from their homes too.
Oh, sure.
But you're saying though, wherever you do it from.
It's
more
gonna cost
electricity,
us.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah,
The windmills also.
yeah, I know. I was into that once. Yeah.
Pop it up all over.
Walking is good. Bicycling is good. Variety of things are good. I don't want to take up all your time. I know you have to go.
Oh, you were very good.
Oh, wow.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. One second.
Lately, there's been a lot of news regarding the effect of ozone and heat. How does that relate to people like us that are overly sensitive?
Well, just like
And-
what happens with that, as like when I was showing the slide that showed you throughout when the day advances get toward the middle of the day and things heat up, that's when it gets worse because that's when it kicks in the ozone because it starts cooking everything in the air, and that's what creates ozone and particulate matter and everything.
But I mean, what's the health effect, let's say, west of Hawthorne versus east of Hawthorne with a big temperature difference? Does 10 degrees temperature difference make a big effect, or is it negligent?
It can make a big difference. Oh yeah, if the closer you are to some of these issues, the worse it is for you. If you're further away from it, some of the emissions, then it's not as bad.
But more specifically, ozone and heat.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciated everything. Thank you so much. I just would like one thing, since you're such a nice group, I'd like to get a picture of me and with your group. Can you do that? Then my boss came out and did some work.
I push that button where you
Let's see. I'll take it. I'll be right here. This way I want to be where you can see me around everybody. What do you think?
You'll be up on YouTube. You'll be up on YouTube. Yeah.
Does he have Photoshop?
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.